that they wanted to be able to play in the Challenge Cup, so the players apparently promised them that they'd make sure we were still in it for them coming back.
And you definitely were, because it was the run for the 2 in a row, weren't it? So
It was, yeah.
So happier times. And talking of happier times, Matt Speakman20 got in touch to comment on Wigan's 8 in a row. So Matt said, I've been watching Wigan's 8 in a row with my dad, who went to the games and turned 21, which is Matt's age now, in 93. So Kevin Iro close to the line was unstoppable, Gregory class, and Afire was incredible. He had no right to score some of his tries. What struck me the most was Hanley and Mike Gregory playing loose forward were both such great all-round players and leaders. Dean Bell also looked good. Yeah, I mean, that was a great era for Wigan. I haven't quite got round to digging out the Invincibles DVD myself, the sort of 8 in a row DVD that was released with extended highlights of all of those finals. I've not jumped onto that one. But did everyone watch the Challenge Cup rerun that the BBC did at the weekend at all?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I haven't caught it yet, but it's on the list for next time. It
was a really good watch, wasn't it, Sarah? So
yeah.
Tim, definitely recommend you getting around that this week at some point, because it was, like you say, really enjoyable, Sarah. What were the things you took out of it most?
I mean, just some of the first match, winning scrums against the feed, proper scrums in the 70s.
Yeah.
And dropping a girl at 12-5 down at half time.
Inspired it turned out to be.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, things like that. You'd be berated for doing that nowadays, wouldn't you? But why? It's a point, isn't it?
I mean, in those days it was only 3 points for a try, weren't it? 2 points for a goal, 1 point for a drop goal. So I guess in the grand scheme of things, it was worth more relative to a try. But yeah, the idea that happened in a game, it blew my mind, Sarah. I agree.
Yeah.
And then you talk about scrums. You went from contested scrums to absolute farcical scrums in the 85 final. Every time I've watched that final, I've always thought the scrums were a joke, but the calibre of the play from so many stars on both sides was fantastic. And what stands out most from the highlights of that match is the big star names did have big star moments. The likes of Kenny and Edwards, and who wasn't really a star name yet at that stage, I suppose, and Ferguson for Wigan, and then Luluai and Sterling for Hull. These people popped up in what we would call our highlight reel moments now when we're doing our match recaps in our normal episodes, and it was, the greatest players on the planet who were doing it in that match.
And for me, watching, albeit just the highlights of the 85 Cup final, so soon after hearing Peter Sterling talk, was really nice, because I was sort of watching it with his comments in mind. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
And then that Bradford Saints final was I don't remember that one, even though it was in the 90s. I don't remember watching that one, and it was an absolute cracker. I have seen some bits of it since, because obviously it was the first hat-trick scored at Wembley by Robbie Paul, but that was a cracking game.
See, I remember it really well, because that summer we went to Malta for our family holiday, and we got done by the timeshare people. They wanted to take us around, these places and all the rest of it. And we ended up going because, I don't know, we did. Anyway, so we're going round, and they're giving us all this spiel, and I noticed that sitting just across the table, across the room, was a family in Bradford shirts. So, being a rather obnoxious teenager, I sat there making comments along the lines of, well, doesn't matter if you score a hat-trick, does it? You still can't win at Wembley.
I mean, that's a lot of brass coming from a Hull FC fan at that stage.
I know, but, it was funny. And, comments along that. And but, why did nobody move Nathan Graham from fullback? He couldn't catch a ball.
Yeah. And
I don't think we saw the full extent of his absolute failings that day. That was what
we saw
what cost
enough,
them.
didn't we?
Yeah, but every kick, like he ran scared from.
Yeah, and Steve Prescott scored that try with the 3 kicks. That was a
Yeah. Yeah.
The third kick seemed like an element of luck coming off his shin, but what a great score that was, and showed his sort of skill and instinctive play to the fore.
Yeah.
In that one. And then we had Bradford against Leeds, didn't we, with Kevin Sinfield not taking the 2.
Yeah.
In 2003.
The really worrying thing was when they said, we wanted to show the 2005 one, but we couldn't get hold of a copy of it.
Yeah, I know. That's because, obviously people in Hull don't share their DVDs. So
Joshua said if they'd asked, they could have had his. Well, they'd probably had to have Dad's because ours is a little bit worn out. But, if they'd asked, we could have helped them. But yeah. But
then the final one, and do you know what? Watching the Hull FC Warrington one from 2016 back, in highlights it probably helped because there was large parts of that game where there wasn't activity almost, especially in the first half of the game where the tension wasn't quite there yet. But watching it, I felt tense again watching it. It felt like a dramatic, could go either way still game, even though I knew the outcome, and it's the most freshest in the memory of them all, probably maybe aside from 85 because I've watched that more times back since. But yeah, I mean the tension just for me as a neutral, Sarah, so I don't know, does watching that one back bring you any memories of any fainting or anything like that?
I didn't faint in that one. I had goosebumps all the way up my arms. I felt sick.
Watching it back or at the ground?
Yeah, watching it back.
Wow.
At the ground, I moved away from my family. I couldn't bear to be near Joshua anymore. I went and sat in a completely different block on my own for about the last 20 minutes of that match.
Was that because his swearing was offending you too much?
It was terrible. No, he kept saying, how long left? Have we still got time to win it? Have we still got time to win it? Have they still got time to win it? Let Joshua go away. I couldn't cope. I think that was the only match he's really annoyed me at.
Yeah.
But anyway, so... but watching it back, and I was sitting there literally with my hands over my face, and Luke walked in and he was like, but Mum, you've seen this, you were there, you know what happens. Why are you sitting there as if it's going to be a surprise? And he just couldn't understand it.
It was amazing. It was amazing that there was still an ability to create. I think the way they put the program together worked really well as well. With that, the highlights they selected and that sort of stuff played its part in all of that. I thought it was a great program. So there you go. Yeah.
And just watching the shirt fashion changing. You were talking about Steve Prescott try, but how huge was that shirt and the shoulders and everything?
Yeah, I have been noticing the shoulder pads trend from the 70s and from the 80s and 90s. That from watching stuff over the last few weeks myself. You're right. The other thing as well, and because I don't know if people have noticed on my own Twitter, I'm kind of going through all of my Wigan shirts from the oldest one that I owned, and I've got 27 in total. So I'm wearing one each day, and all of the ones that I've worn so far all had big, noticeable collars, and I think I'm only a couple of days away from not having collars anymore and just having it the current style. And some of the old ones that I'm wearing are like cotton and stuff, and it's going to change very quickly soon to the ones
and they certainly had cotton collars, didn't they?
Yeah.
Even when they were sort of a bit more polyester.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, definitely, anyone that's not seen it, get it on iPlayer.
Yeah, it was a good reminisce, definitely. I guess for everyone, there's a bit for everyone as well, because there was either a side that you like or a side that you hate, losing or winning at some point, I think, for most people. Yeah,
or both.
Yeah. So that's it for the match reviews this week. Do get in touch with any games you watch this week. I mean, it would have been Good Friday this week, so Sky is showing.
It's still Good Friday this week, Mark.
No, there's only.
It is.
We had this conversation last week.
Good Friday still is on the calendar if you look.
It's not on my calendar. There's nothing in my calendar anymore. My calendar just looks depressed. But actually, I'm looking up now, and my calendar currently is still on March because I've had no reason to turn it over. But the picture I'm looking at is from last March, and it's me, Dave Cantrell, and Karsten at London, at the London game.
London, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, so it's still Good Friday for the religious stuff and for the bank holidays, but it's not Good Friday for rugby league. Apart from Sky Sports, are I think on the Arena channel are basically going to have Derby Day through the day. So they're going to have 15-minute highlight clips of loads of Derby games, mostly I think between Wigan and Saints Hull KR and Hull FC. I think there's a Wakefield Cast one maybe in there as well along the way, maybe a couple of others, I'm not sure, can't remember the full rundown. That starts around lunchtime and runs through the afternoon. And the game that they're playing in full, and I think I called this last week already, was the 2003 Wigan versus Saints game. The one where Wigan, kind of like the Catalans Hull FC game we were just talking about, Sarah, where Hull were forced into playing some juniors, Wigan were forced into playing some young players on debut in that game, and it was kind of went down as being a famous Good Friday game, so I'm not surprised that one is the one they've chosen to show in full. So if you watch any of those games, any of the Super Leagues ones that they put up to rewatch, any of the R League ones, or anything else you watch, look out for the match reviews form. Send us your views on those games, and we love talking about those because we're in place of having new action to talk about. That's the match reviews finished. We're now going to move into an interview that I did with Mike Webster. You might remember from last week, Mike got in touch about the Offload program, and also we talked about community foundations. So you'll hear some music, then we'll get into me and Mike. Me and Mike end up talking a bit about halfbacks and derbies, and then that will roll nicely into us talking about halfbacks. So, people who listened to last week's episode 255 of Super League Pod will be aware that we were reached out to by someone from the Saints Community Foundation who deals with the Offload project in particular. So I'm delighted that on this week's episode we're going to hear from Mike from the Saints Community Foundation. So, Mike, welcome to the Super League Pod.
Thanks, Mark. Good to be with you.
Yeah, so your official title is Mental Health Ambassador for the Saints Community Foundation, and last week you wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the Offload programme that runs through Rugby League Cares and some of the club foundations was still operating in a remote way in this new way of living ourselves. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to get you on to find out more about Offload and about how people can get more information and potentially get involved with that. So does that sound good to you?
That's great, yeah. And hopefully we can talk a bit about how the foundations, not just at St Helens, work, but throughout Rugby League.
Yeah, that would be fantastic as well, yeah. So I suppose, do you want to start off by giving us a bit of a general overview of Offload?
Yeah, we can do that. Offload's, I think it's a really original way of dealing with mental fitness issues. The people originally behind it were Rugby League Cares and State of Mind, and it started off with 3 of the foundations at clubs in the Northwest. So it was originally Warrington, Salford, and Widnes. At St Helens, we've come a little bit late to it, but in a sense we're quite proud of that because we didn't get the original funding that came out centrally. So we've been able to start Offload with St Helens Council and the Public Health Department. So ours is very much funded and run by people from St Helens. How Offload runs is it has a rugby league theme to it. So each of the sessions, and people will sign up for a session, has what we call 10 fixtures. One of the draws to it is it's actually held at the club's ground. So all at Widnes, Warrington, St Helens, and the sessions are actually held in the club dressing rooms.
Wow.
So you get a rugby league theme to it by, well, certainly when I've been to them, walking into one of the dressing rooms really is a bit of a treat to start with.